Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are putting on our heavy coats. We are stepping into a world that is cold, dark, and, well, incredibly dangerous. And I don't just mean the weather, although we are going to be trudging through a lot of snow miles of it, in fact. I mean a coldness of the spirit.
Yeah.
We are traveling to St. Petersburg, Russia, in the early 20th century.
It is a chill that gets right into your bones. We are looking at Joseph Conrad's masterpiece, Under Western Eyes. Specifically, we are unpacking part first and part second of the novel.
Right.
And this isn't just a spy novel, you know. It is a psychological horror story about what happens when a government demands total access to your soul.
Yeah.
It's about the crushing weight of silence.
Exactly. And we have a massive stack of source material here. Articles, the text itself, critical analysis that paints a picture of a society so repressed, so paranoid that trust becomes a fatal liability.
It really does.
But before we get to the bombs and the betrayal, let's set the scene. We are in St. Petersburg. It's winter. It's the era of the czars. And the atmosphere isn't just a backdrop. It's practically a character in the story.
It is. I mean, Conrad describes the setting as a place where words can be fatal. In a free society, you can shout your opinions in the street.
Sure.
In the St. Petersburg of this novel, a whisper in the wrong ear sends you to the gallows or, to the salt mines of Siberia. It's a heavy, oppressive atmosphere where silence is the only safety.
That's a catch-22, right? If you speak, you risk death. If you don't speak, you risk suspicion.
Precisely. You can't win. And into this pressure cooker, Conrad drops our protagonist, Kirylo Razumov.
Okay, Razumov. Now, before we get to the explosions, and there are explosions, we need to understand who this guy is.
Yeah.
Because his background dictates his entire tragedy.
He absolutely does.
He's a student at the University of St. Petersburg. He's tall, dark, quiet. But the most important thing about him isn't what he is, but what he isn't. The text says he has no parentage.
And that's the key to his entire psychology. He is the illegitimate son of a nobleman, a man named Prince K. But that relationship is entirely secret.
So it's a shadow over his life.
It's a huge shadow. He can't claim the name. He can't claim the inheritance. In the eyes of the law and society, Razumov is nobody. He has no family name, no estate, no safety net. He is just, floating in a void, completely alone in this massive empire.
Which explains his ambition, doesn't he? He isn't trying to change the world. He's trying to find a place in it.
Yes.
He wants to win the silver medal for a prize essay at the university. That's his whole life plan. It sounds so small compared to the revolutionary fervor all around him, but for him, it's everything.
It is everything. Win the medal, get a government job, become a bureaucrat, and finally have an identity, finally be someone.
He wants to be cog in the machine.
Precisely. Because the machine is the only thing that seems solid. He's a rationalist. He looks at Russia, this massive, snowy, chaotic land, and he believes that without the autocracy, without the czar, it would just dissolve into anarchy.
So he's not a revolutionary at all. He's the opposite.
He's the complete opposite. He calls himself a man of history, not theory.
Yeah.
He wants to evolve within the system, not blow it up.
So he's keeping his head down, he's studying. He's essentially the guy in the library who shushes you if you breathe too loud because he's so focused on his future.
That's a perfect description. But because he's so quiet, the other students, the radicals, the revolutionaries, they misread him completely.
Oh, this is the first tragic irony of the book.
It is. They see his silence and think it's profound. They think he's deep. They think he's secretly one of them, simmering with revolutionary rage. They call him a silent soul.
When really he's just terrified.
He's just terrified of saying the wrong thing. He's silent because he's trying to be invisible. He wants to disappear into the woodwork of the state.
Unfortunately for Razumov, invisibility is a limited resource in St. Petersburg. Let's talk about the inciting incident. The assassination. This is where reality comes crashing through his window, or rather, walking through his door.
Yeah, this is where it all goes wrong for him. The target of this assassination is a man named Mr. P. He's the Minister of State, the President of Repressive Commission.
So a big deal, the embodiment of the regime's power.
The biggest deal. In the source text, he is described as a monster of bureaucracy. He has these goggle eyes that seem to see everything and nothing at the same time. He is ruthless. He believes liberty is a sin against God. He's the iron fist of the state, the man who signs the deportation orders.
And someone decides to break that fist. He's being driven to the railway station in a sleigh. It's a blizzard, snow coming down hard, and suddenly, chaos. A peasant in a sheepskin coat throws a bomb.
But here's the detail that matters. That first bomb misses the minister. It kills the horses and the coachman. It's a mess of blood and snow. The minister scrambles out of the wreckage, unhurt, starts shouting at the crowd to keep back.
He thinks he survives.
He thinks he survived, and that is when the second man steps out.
The backup assassin, of course.
Yes. The text tells us there is always a backup plan in these circles. The second man throws a second bomb. It kills the minister instantly. It also kills the first assassin. But the second man, the one who actually finished the job, escapes in the smoke and confusion.
And his name is Victor Haldin.
Victor Haldin.
And this is where the mission of our deep dive really begins. We need to unpack how a rational man is driven to betrayal, the psychological cost of living under a regime where, nobody is safe, and the tragic irony of those left behind. Because Haldin is now the most wanted man in Russia. Every policeman, every spy, every gendarme is looking for him. Where does he go?
He doesn't go to a safe house. He doesn't go to his family. He doesn't flee the city immediately. He walks through the snow, sneaks into a building, climbs the stairs, and breaks into the room with the one person he thinks he can trust.
The man with the silent soul.
Razumov.
Imagine the scene. Just put yourself in his shoes. Razumov comes home. He's shaking the snow off his coat. His mind is full of academic theories. He's thinking about his silver medal essay.
His whole future.
His whole future. He walks into his room, expecting the warmth of his stove and the silence of his books. And there, standing by his stove, is an assassin.
And Haldin is terrifyingly calm. He asks, "Is the outer door closed?" Just as casually as if you were asking for a cup of tea. He treats the assassination like a heavy but necessary chore, like he just cleared a fallen tree from the road.
Except the tree was a high-ranking government official.
Exactly. And he confesses immediately. It was I who removed a pea this morning.
Razumov's reaction here is so visceral and so human. He doesn't think, oh my God, is the minister dead, or are you okay? He thinks, there goes my silver medal.
It's pure self-preservation, and it's brutally honest. He realizes instantly that his life is over. If the police walk in right now, Razumov is an accomplice.
Right.
He goes to Siberia or the gallows. It doesn't matter that he didn't do it. Harboring the assassin is the same as throwing the bomb. His career, his identity, his future Haldin has destroyed it all just by standing there.
But Haldin is completely oblivious to Razumov's internal panic. He starts monologuing. He tells Razumov why he came. He says, I haven't met anybody who dared to doubt the generosity of your sentiments.
He thinks they are soulmates.
It's a total delusion.
It's excruciating to read. Haldin is projecting his own idealism onto Razumov. He calls Razumov brother. He interprets Razumov's shock and silence as stoic agreement.
Meanwhile, Razumov is looking at him and thinking he's a pestilential disease.
Yeah, he's looking at Haldin on his bed and practically hallucinating his own execution. But Razumov is trapped. He can't kick him out because Haldin is physically stronger, he's pumped up on adrenaline, and frankly, he's dangerous.
Haldin does have a plan, though. He's not planning to stay forever. He needs to escape. He tells Razumov about a man named Zemyanich.
Zemyanich. He's a key character here, even though we barely see him. He's a town peasant, a driver who owns a team of horses.
And Haldin idolizes him.
Completely. He calls Zemyanich a bright spirit, a true Russian man. He believes Zemyanich is this reliable, salt-of-the-earth figure who will smuggle him out of St. Petersburg to a railway station outside the city.
So Razumov has a choice. A terrible choice. He can run to the police right now, scream for help, and hope they believe he's innocent.
Which is unlikely.
Very unlikely. Or he can go find this Zemyanich, arrange the escape, and get Haldin out of his apartment. If he gets Haldin out, maybe, just maybe, he can salvage his life and his silver medal.
So he takes the path of least resistance, at least for now.
For now. So he puts his coat back on and heads out into the blizzard.
And this journey is critical. It's a descent into the reality of Russia, as opposed to the idea of Russia that Haldin talks about. Razumov walks through the deep snow, and the environment begins to warp his thinking.
The snow is a major symbol here, isn't it? It's not just weather. It feels crushing.
Absolutely. It's a character. Razumov looks at the snow covering everything, leveling the world into a monstrous blank page. He feels what he calls the sacred inertia of Russia.
The sacred inertia. What does that mean?
He thinks the snow is silent. The snow is heavy, the snow endures, and he starts to align himself with that inertia. He looks at the snow and thinks that the revolutionaries are just noise. They are trying to scribble on the snow, but the snow will just cover them up.
So he's convincing himself that doing nothing or siding with the status quo is actually a moral stance. He's aligning himself with the silence of the autocracy against the noise of the rebels.
Correct. He tells himself he isn't a coward. He's a realist. He is siding with the permanent against the temporary. It's a defense mechanism. He needs to feel superior to Haldin to justify what he's about to do.
But then his high-minded philosophy hits a brick wall, or rather, a drunk driver.
Yeah.
He gets to the eating house where Ziemianich hangs out. And let's be clear, this isn't a nice pub. It's a dive.
It's a filthy hole in the wall. The text describes it vividly, reeking of greasy, ranted steam, cheap spirits, and unwashed bodies. It's the underbelly of the city. Razumov walks in looking for the bright spirit Haldin told him about.
And he finds him, but Ziemianich isn't a bright spirit.
Not even close. He's passed out dead drunk in a stable, face down in the straw.
Oh, no.
It's a scene of utter degradation. Ziemianich is insensible. He can't drive anyone. He can't even stand up. He's just a snoring lump of meat. And this breaks something in Razumov.
This is the people Haldin is fighting for.
This is the people Haldin claims to be fighting for. He looks at this drunken brute and he just snaps.
It beats him. And it's not just a slap to wake him up. Razumov grabs a stable fork handle and thrashes this unconscious man. He breaks the handle on him.
It's a displacement of rage. It's incredibly violent. He wants to beat Haldin. He wants to beat the universe for putting him in this trap. But he takes it out on Ziemianich.
Oh.
It symbolizes the position of the Russian intellectual, caught between the fanaticism of the visionary, that's Haldin, and the inertia of the masses, Ziemianich. He realizes he can't rely on either of them. The people are drunk, and the leaders are murderers.
The plan is dead. No driver. No escape. Razumov has to walk home. And this is where the psychological pivot happens. He's walking through the snow, terrified, and he hallucinates.
This is a terrifying moment, and it feels like something out of Dostoevsky. He sees a phantom of Haldin lying across his path in the snow. It looks solid. It looks real.
And what does he do?
Razumov stops, stares at it. But then he walks right up to it and steps through it.
He walks through the phantom's chest.
And that's the moment he decides. He thinks Haldin is a phantom. He represents disruption. I represent reality. He begins to construct a philosophy to justify betrayal. He tells himself, I will give him up, not because I'm scared, but because it is right. Betrayal is patriotism.
He needs to make it noble, doesn't he? He can't just admit to himself, I'm a snitch. He has to be a savior of the state.
He has to frame it that way, but he still has a problem. He can't just walk up to a beat cop. That's beneath him, and it's risky. He needs to do this with dignity.
He needs moral support.
He needs moral support. He feels the need to confess to someone who matters. So he remembers Prince K.
His secret father.
Right. The man who's his father, but has never publicly acknowledged him. He goes to the prince's palace. He's desperate. He bursts in, looking like a madman.
I can only imagine the prince's reaction.
He's shocked. This illegitimate son he never acknowledges is suddenly in his study, but he listens. Razumov says, I have a man in my room, the man who killed the minister.
The prince's reaction is fascinating. He's horrified, obviously, but he's also calculating. He doesn't embrace Razumov as a son. He treats him like a dangerous problem that needs to be solved to protect the family name.
Yeah, his first thought is damage control.
So he takes Razumov straight to the authorities, but not the local precinct. He takes him to the top, to General T.
And General T is the embodiment of the system's cruelty. He's described with that recurring motif of goggle eyes, again, eyes that are glassy and unfeeling.
Like Mr. De P, the man who was killed.
Exactly. It's a motif for the state's inhumanity. He has a fleshy profile. He's sitting in a warm, luxurious room, surrounded by hothouse plants, talking about exterminating rebels like they are vermin.
But he's polite. That's the creepy part. He has a gentle, musical voice. He offers them chairs.
That's the horror of civilized savagery. He hates revolution instinctively. He says, I detest rebels. It is my nature. When Razumov enters, the general stares at him with those stony blue eyes and asks, has he any weapons?
So he suspects Razumov immediately.
Immediately. He looks at Razumov not as a hero who is turning in a villain, but as a potential accomplice who got cold feet.
So Razumov feels caught between two fathers here, the biological father, the prince, who is ashamed of him, and the political father, the general, who suspects him.
And he hates them both. He feels superior to them both. But he gives up Haldin. He tells them everything.
And here is the trap. The general realizes they can't raid Razumov's room.
Right. If they drag Haldin out of Razumov's apartment, everyone at the university will know Razumov was the snitch. Razumov will be useless to them and potentially dead at the hands of other students.
So they preserve his cover. They decide to catch Haldin at the rendezvous point, the place where the carriage was supposed to be. That way, it looks like bad luck, not betrayal.
It looks like Ziemianich didn't show up and the police just happened to be there.
Which means Razumov has to go back.
He has to go back. He has to go back to his room, sit with the man he just sentenced to death, and act like everything is normal. He has to maintain the lie.
That scene is pure psychological torture. Razumov walks in. Haldin is lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, dreaming of a free Russia. He asks, "Did you see Zemyanich?" And Razumov says, "I saw him."
Technically true, but a lie in every way that matters. Razumov is sweating. He's checking his watch. He knows that at midnight, Haldin is going to walk out the door and into the arms of the police.
And Haldin just keeps talking. He talks about the Russian soul. He says, "My spirit shall go on warring in some other body." He believes he is a martyr.
He does. And he looks at Razumov and sees a friend who risked everything for him. He's completely in the dark.
Razumov almost cracks. The tension is unbearable. He starts mocking Haldin. He says things like, "You think you're safe? What if I was a spy? What if I have goggle eyes?"
He's practically screaming the truth in riddles.
He is. But Haldin is so wrapped up in his own narrative that he interprets Razumov's agitation as deep empathy. He thinks Razumov is just stressed because he cares so much.
That's just a catastrophic failure to communicate.
Finally, the clock strikes. It's midnight. Haldin gets up. He wraps his coat around him. And his final words, they haunt the rest of the book. He says, "Go with God, thou silent soul."
Thou silent soul. He blesses the man who betrayed him. It encapsulates the entire tragedy. Haldin walks out into the dark.
And then silence. Razumov is alone. His watch is stopped. He's waiting for the police to bust in, terrified that maybe Haldin escaped or maybe Haldin talked. He's in limbo.
He tries to regain control. He grabs a pen and writes a manifesto on a piece of paper. He writes, "History, not theory. Patriotism, not internationalism. Evolution, not revolution."
It's like he's trying to convince himself, "I did the right thing. I am on the side of history."
He is. He's building his own justification, and then he does something violent. He stabs the paper to the wall with a penknife. He leaves it there, pinned like a dead butterfly.
What an image.
It's an act of assertion, but it feels desperate. He's trying to pin down his own conscience.
The next day, the news breaks. Haldin was caught. He was tried and hanged in a single day. The efficiency of the state is terrifying.
It is. And here is the twist. He never talked.
Yeah.
He never gave Razumov up.
This is the nightmare scenario for Razumov.
The absolute worst-case scenario. Because Haldin stayed silent, the other students at the university assume Razumov was his partner. They think Razumov is the one who helped him.
So they start treating him with awe.
They come to his room and look at him with reverence. They see him as a hero.
He's promoted to revolutionary hero. He's living a lie that he can't escape. If he tells the truth, "Actually, guys, I turned him in," the revolutionaries will kill him.
And if he keeps lying, the police will eventually find him.
But the police are already ahead of him. He gets a summons to the Secretariat. This brings us to Counselor Mikulin.
Ah, Mikulin.
We have to talk about Mikulin. If General T was the brute force, Mikulin is the brain.
Mikulin is fascinating. He's described as having a rustic face, a soft voice, and dim, steadfast eyes. He's courteous. He doesn't yell. He doesn't threaten with guns.
He's the more dangerous of the two, isn't he?
Far more dangerous. When Razumov walks in expecting to be arrested, Mikulin just chats with him.
He shows Razumov the manifesto, the paper Razumov stabbed to the wall. The police seized it during a search while Razumov was out.
And Mikulin has read it. He sees potential. He realizes Razumov is intelligent, compromised, and desperate. That makes him the perfect asset.
He doesn't want to imprison him. He wants to use him.
Exactly. He wants to recruit him. He sees a man who can infiltrate the revolutionaries because they already trust him.
Razumov tries to bluff. He's angry. He says, "I want to be done with this. I want to retire." He stands up, walks to the door, and says, "I'm leaving," simply retiring. He thinks he can just walk away from the game.
And this is one of the most famous endings to a chapter in literature. Razumov is at the door, hand on the handle. And Mikulin, without raising his voice, just asks two words, "Where to?" It stops Razumov cold. Because there is no answer. Where can he go? He can't go to the revolutionaries. He betrayed them. He can't go back to his quiet student life. That's gone. He's a hero now.
He's owned by the state.
He is now property of the state. Mikulin is telling him gently that there is no exit. Retirement is not an option in an autocracy. You are either a prisoner or a servant.
That question hangs in the air as we move to part 2. The scene shifts dramatically. We leave the snowy, dark streets of St. Petersburg and jump to Geneva, Switzerland.
The contrast is jarring. We go from the suffocating atmosphere of Russia to the free city of Geneva. Green trees, clean streets, decent coffee, people walking freely.
But the shadow follows them.
Oh yeah, Conrad shows us that the shadow of Russia follows these characters wherever they go. They carry the darkness with them.
We also get a new narrator here. We're no longer inside Razumov's head. We are seeing things through the eyes of an elderly English language teacher.
This shift is crucial. The Western eyes of the title belong to him. He is decent, rational, a bit dry. He represents the Western liberal perspective. He tries to understand the Russian soul, but he constantly admits failure.
He finds them baffling.
Completely baffling. Their intensity, their cynicism, their capacity for suffering. He says at one point, words are the great foes of reality. He thinks Russians use words to intoxicate themselves, to talk themselves into things that make no sense to a pragmatic Westerner.
He's our skeptical guide.
He is. And he introduces us to two women living in Geneva, Mrs. Haldin and her daughter, Natalie.
Victor Haldin's mother and sister. And the tragedy is immediately apparent to us because we know Victor is dead. They don't.
They are waiting for him to arrive. They think he escaped.
Natalie Haldin is a striking character. She's described as having strong vitality and clear, great eyes. She is direct, truthful, open. She worships her brother.
She believes he is a noble hero who is going to change the world. She represents the pure idealistic side of the revolution, the side that believes in love and brotherhood, not just bombs.
And the mother, Mrs. Haldin, is practically a statue of anxiety. She stares out the window, waiting for a letter. She senses something is wrong. She says, there is neither peace nor rest in Russia, but in the grave.
She has this dark intuition. And then the news breaks. The English teacher sees a copy of an English newspaper, The Standard, a small paragraph about the execution of the assassin in St. Petersburg. He has to be the one to tell them.
It's a brutal scene. Natalie reads the paper. She turns to stone. She doesn't scream or faint. She goes to tell her mother.
And the mother's reaction is even more heartbreaking. She stops speaking. She retreats into silence, but she develops a fixed idea.
She can't accept that Victor just died.
No. She believes he must have been betrayed. She says, even amongst the apostles of Christ there was found a Judas. She's intuitive. She knows someone sold him out. But she has no idea that the Judas is the man she's hoping to meet.
Because in Victor's letters, he mentioned a friend, a man of unstained, lofty, and solitary existence. He praised Razumov to the skies.
So Natalie and Mrs. Haldin are desperate to find Razumov. They think he's the one person who can tell them about Victor's last days.
They want to hug the man who sent Victor to the gallows.
It's the ultimate dramatic irony. They are longing for the comfort of the very man who destroyed their family. They view him as a link to Victor, but he is actually the wall that separates them from the truth.
While they are grieving, we get a look at the wider circle of Russian exiles in Geneva. And Conrad really takes the gloves off here. He paints a picture of the revolutionary leadership that is. Well, it's not flattering.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's almost satirical. He despises them. We meet Peter Ivanovich. He's this famous revolutionary hero, a feminist writer who preaches the cult of the woman. He has a legendary backstory. He escaped from Siberia by filing through his chains.
The story of the chain is wild.
It is. He filed it, but he dropped the file. So he had to run through the forest with the chain still wrapped around his waist. He lived like a wild beast, burrowing in the snow. Eventually, a blacksmith's wife helped him strike the irons off. It sounds incredibly heroic.
But the man we meet in Geneva is a parody of that hero.
A total parody. He's a burly, bearded egotist with dark glasses. He holds court at a place called the Chateau Betrayal. And despite preaching about the divinity of women and their spiritual superiority, he treats his actual female companion like a slave.
That would be Tekla.
Yes, Tekla. She's a tragic figure. She's ragged, overworked, and terrified of coughing in Peter Ivanovich's presence because it disturbs his inspiration.
Wow.
He makes her sit motionless for hours while he dictates his books. He preaches liberation, but practices tyranny in his own living room.
Conrad is showing the hypocrisy, right? Peter Ivanovich talks about humanity, but he lacks basic empathy for the person sitting right in front of him.
Exactly. He's an egoist masked as a savior. Tekla tells Natalie her own backstory, which is heartbreaking. She nursed a dying lithographer, a poor workman who had been beaten by the police. It highlights the suffering of the little people.
Right. You have the grand leaders like Peter Ivanovich living in villas, and then you have the Teklas and the Zemianiches who get crushed by the gears of history.
That's the core of it. There's a great detail about a cat. Tekla feeds a stray cat in the garden. It's a humanizing moment for her. She says, I don't mind a bit. Animals have their rights. She pours her love into this cat because the humans around her are so cold.
It underscores the lack of genuine care in this revolutionary circle. They love mankind with capital M, but they don't seem to care much for individual men and women.
Not at all. So the stage is set for the convergence. Natalie goes to the Chateau Borel. Not because she likes Peter Ivanovich, she actually sees through him, she thinks he's pompous, but because she hears a rumor.
She hears that a new arrival from St. Petersburg has been seen there.
A man described as unstained, lofty, and solitary. Razumov.
He's in Geneva. Mikulin's question where to apparently led him here. He's been sent by the state to spy on the exiles.
He's now a double agent. He's working for Mikulin. But imagine his internal state. He's surrounded by people who think he's a hero. He's being embraced by Peter Ivanovich. And worst of all, he is about to meet the sister of the man he killed.
Natalie wants to meet him desperately. She tells the English teacher she wants to ask him about Victor. She wants the truth.
She says she wants to know if Victor had a plan, if he died for a reason. She wants to soothe her mother's suspicion of betrayal. She walks right into the trap.
She trusts him.
She trusts Razumov implicitly before she's even seen his face, purely because her brother loved him.
It creates this unbearable tension. Razumov has to look into those clear, truthful gray eyes and lie.
And remember, Razumov isn't a sociopath. He's a man with a conscience. That's what makes it a tragedy. If he were just a cold-blooded spy, it would be a thriller. But he's a man who wanted to be ordinary, who is now being forced to live an extraordinary lie.
Every compliment from Natalie will feel like a judgment.
Exactly. Every time she calls him lofty or honest, it will cut him deeper than any insult.
Let's unpack the Russian soul aspect of this again. Throughout the text, we keep coming back to this idea. Haldin talks about it. The English teacher is baffled by it. What is Conrad saying here?
Well, I think Conrad portrays the Russian soul, at least in this specific historical context, as landscape of extremes. There is no middle ground. You have the absolute power of the autocracy on one side and the absolute negation of the revolutionaries on the other. It is a world of spectral ideas.
And both sides seem to demand total submission.
Exactly. General T demands your body and your obedience. Peter Ivanovich demands your spirit and your inspiration. There is no space for a private life.
That's what Razumov wanted, a private life.
That's all he wanted. He wanted his silver medal and his books. But in this version of Russia, privacy is a luxury you cannot afford. If you try to stand in the middle, you get crushed. The system forces you to choose a side, and both sides are violent.
It's interesting how the West is portrayed, too. Geneva is free, but the Russians seem to find it kind of empty.
Yes, they find the West unimaginative. They think Westerners have made a bargain with fate, liberty for safety. But the Russians haven't made that bargain. They live in a state of high-stakes moral drama.
Even though that path is paved with bombs and gallows.
That's the paradox. They detest the reality of their country, the oppression, the poverty, yet they are obsessed with its spiritual superiority. They think the West is cold and shallow, while Russia is deep and tragic.
So Razumov is in Geneva, he's met Peter Ivanovich, he's about to meet Natalie, the trap is set, the reader is just waiting for the snap.
It's a masterclass in suspense.
Mm-hmm.
Not the suspense of who did it, but the suspense of when will he break? Because a man like Razumov cannot hold that much pressure forever. He is a steam boiler with no release valve.
Let's circle back to the beginning. We watched Razumov go from a guy annoyed by a guest to a guy beating a drunk driver to a police informant. Do you think he had a choice?
That is the great question of the novel. Technically, yes. He could have hidden Haldin. He could have tried to help him escape. But the cost would have been his entire existence. He would have been sent to the mines. Conrad forces us to ask, how much heroism can we expect from an ordinary person?
Razumov isn't a hero.
Not at all. He's just a man who wanted to be left alone.
But the way he did it, the rationalization, he didn't just turn him in and say, I'm scared. He convinced himself it was the right thing to do. He wrapped his fear in a flag.
And that's the most dangerous part. When we dress up our self-preservation as moral duty, he convinced himself he was saving Russia from disruption. But deep down, he was just saving his own skin.
And the tragedy is he failed.
He failed. He didn't save his skin. He lost his soul. He became a tool for Mikulin. He lost the very freedom he was trying to protect. By trying to save his future as a bureaucrat, he became a slave to the bureaucracy.
Where to? There is nowhere to go.
Nowhere. He is in exile in Geneva, but his real exile is internal. He is cut off from all human connection because connection requires truth. And he can never tell the truth again. He is locked inside his own skull with the phantom of Haldin.
Well, we're going to have to leave Razumov there, standing on the precipice of meeting Natalie Haldin. It's a heavy story, but man, does it make you think about the cost of security and the weight of secrets.
It certainly does. It reminds us that in a system built on lies, the truth doesn't set you free. It gets you hanged. Or worse, it turns you into a spy.
On that cheerful note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into Under Western Eyes. It's a story of phantoms, snow, and the crushing weight of the state.
And the enduring power of the human conscience, which refuses to be silenced even when you try to stab it to the wall with a penknife.
Powerful stuff. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next dive.
Take care.
Wait, before we go, I just have to ask that line from Michelin, where to? Do you think Razumov had an answer?
I think his presence in Geneva is the answer. The answer was, wherever you tell me to go. He surrendered his will. He became an instrument. And that is a form of death even more total than the gallows.
A chilling thought to end on. See you next time.
Deep dive.
Signing off.